Hi guys, this is Scott Horne, and in this video we're going to address title insurance and how it relates to closing transactions, whether you're buying them subject to the existing debt or using some type of wraparound mortgage or seller financing. We're going to talk a bit about title insurance both when you're buying the property and or when you're selling it to a back-end homeowner. We're going to talk about when you should consider getting title insurance, when you shouldn't, what liens may show up on title evidence, how to remove some, what may or may not attach, so that you understand the best way to handle situations, and how to close your transaction properly, whether it's with the proper attorney and or law firm or through a title company. Now keep in mind one thing, subject to and wraparounds are pretty much the same thing because in any instance, the existing mortgage is being left in place. Now, when you're buying a home where there is an existing mortgage left in place, it's important to note that because there is an existing mortgage, normally this is closed with a mortgage company, you're going to know that they obtained title insurance when that was bought. So the great odds are everything before the date of purchase of that property through that mortgage is probably clear and everything is copacetic. The question is what happened afterwards? Now, with that in mind, I'm going to take a moment and talk about what goes on here in Texas because other states could be a little bit different as well. Now, in Texas, about 98% or so of the homes that investors buy are homesteads. Because they're homesteads, there's only 3 types of liens here in Texas that can attach to that property. One, of course, is the purchase money mortgage. And that could mean a refinance, it could mean a reverse mortgage, things of that nature, whatever is used to purchase or refinance the home with. The second kind of lien that can attach is a tax lien. Now that could be a property tax lien through the county or through a private company, or it could be a federal tax lien, meaning there's an IRS debt that's due and owing. Now guys, just because someone thinks they have taxes due doesn't mean that a tax lien has been filed. So it's important to look at your commitment and or your title search to understand that. Lastly, here in Texas, a properly executed mechanics lien contract can be recorded against the property. Now there's 2 types of mechanics liens here in Texas. One is mechanics lien contract, which acts much like a mortgage. The other is a constitutional mechanics lien, which attaches to a property when properly filed by the contractor who wasn't paid. Now there's some rules and regulations about how they have to do that timely and properly to be valid. So initially when we're closing a transaction, knowing that those are the only liens that can attach legally by our Constitution, that's all we're really looking for when we're doing our title searches or doing our title closing itself. Now, if you come across some liens on property, it's nice to know that many of these can be removed. Now here in Texas, abstracts for judgments do not attach to a homestead. However, they do attach to a non-homestead. So if your property is non-homestead, you've got to deal with that a little bit different. But on a homestead property, if you find a judgment lien, first off, you need to determine, is it even the seller's judgment? Secondly, is it still a valid judgment lien or has it run its course? And third, if it is valid and does attach to the property, it can be removed by a simple process that takes about 34 days here in Texas. Now, if you come across a child support lien on a homestead, it too can be removed, sometimes by paying one spouse's or the other's payments to the Attorney General's office. If there's no money changing hands, then the AG's office is going to remove that pretty much automatically in those instances. And so the last one is you run across a mechanics lien on the property. And what is most traditionally found is a constitutional mechanics lien, meaning someone put an air conditioning system in and didn't pay the contractor, things like that. They put a roof on, didn't pay the contractor. Those have a life of between 1 and 2 years, 2 years on a homestead property, 1 year on a non-homestead property. And so there's a good chance that those may not be the sellers or they've already fallen off the property altogether. Now, if you want to learn more about liens on properties, at least here in Texas, visit us over at theownerfinancenetwork.com, where we have an extensive lien course that walks through all types of liens on real property. The next question is as you're buying this property using creative finance or selling it, do you need to obtain title insurance? And the answer simply is maybe. Now, not everybody needs to get title insurance. Some are more risk averse than others. I get it. So do what is best for you and what makes you feel more comfortable. When you're buying a home using creative finance, you may be coming out of pocket a large amount of money and want to ensure you're protected. And of course, you can do that with title insurance for the money you're putting up. Now, if the existing debt on the property that you're buying subject to or wrapping is an FHA, VA, or home equity loan, title insurance in most instances is not going to be available, at least in the Texas marketplace. So if you're in other states, you may want to check with your jurisdiction to see if that's the case there or not. So after you've checked that, remember, if you're unable to obtain title insurance, you're not closing through the title company. A title company can only close your transaction if they're issuing title insurance. So that means you might be getting shifted over to the law firm section of that title company or a referral to some lawyer. And of course, the question then becomes, do they know what they're talking about or not when it boils down to creative finance closings? Guys, remember, so much of this business is knowledge-based. It is disclosure-based. The actual closing process isn't that difficult. It's the part leading up to it, the contracts, the proper disclosures, and or other legal requirements that are mandated by state property codes that need to be met with accordingly. Remember also, title escrow officers are not there to represent you or to advise you of these things. So you must either handle these things yourself prior to closing in a competent mechanism, or ensure you're working with a quality attorney who understands the creative finance business. Unfortunately, in this industry, I find there are very few attorneys that understand this in a fashion that is sufficient to provide the buyers and sellers knowledge of what they need in order to close these transactions. So as you're moving forward, deciding whether to close your transaction in a title company, if it's available, or closing in a law firm. And guys, here at Horne & Associates PC, our firm, we close these type of transactions, of course, all over the country, and we can obtain title evidence for you through either an abstract of title or through a title policy based on the situation you might be in. What's important of that is that you're closing with someone who actually understands the creative real estate process to help ensure a smooth closing process for you and your seller or buyer. So as you're moving forward, guys, remember, closing in a title company is not always good. I see it all the time where investors are talking about they closed their transaction in a title company, therefore it was closed properly and correctly. Well, it may have been closed properly and correctly, but the real question was, were the disclosures that were required done properly and correctly? Were the state property codes followed? Was the SAFE Act or Dodd-Frank acts followed? Things of that nature. And title escrow officers are not here to do that for us. So that falls back on the investor's shoulders to ensure that it's done in a proper fashion. So make certain you're closing with the proper entity as you're moving forward. The other thing is avoid kitchen tabletop closings. I know those seem to be going away, but I still see a lot of those out there because, for instance, here in Texas, a creative finance transaction where an existing mortgage is left in place is void unless it's closed in a law office or a title company. That can be a really big hickey. I think it's important to make sure that the attorney you're closing with or title company understands this business. I can tell you I've seen several transactions where sellers have been disenfranchised because the law firm closing the transaction only issued a deed from the seller to the investor. And the seller was left holding the bag, unable to foreclose on the property without going through the litigation routes because there was no vendor's lien or deed of trust there to secure and protect them. Keep in mind, when we do these kind of transactions, we have to know that we need to protect our sellers at all times. And of course, I like to do that by providing our seller a traditional mechanism for foreclosure, which is simply a deed of trust on the property. Finally, I want to point out, what is the price for doing this wrong? Guys, you need to check your states, make sure you understand your rules and regulations. Here in Texas, they have made some things very risky in the creative finance world out there. If sellers do not provide their buyers the proper disclosures regarding the underlying mortgage, regarding insurance, if you do not close in a law office or a title company, and or meet certain licensing requirements, it is possible that you could be held liable under deceptive trade practices. It is possible, if you're dealing with a back-end buyer who's a homeowner or a consumer, that they could request all of their money to be returned to them. So doing this business right, ensuring that our sellers and or our buyers have proper disclosures, and everybody goes into these transactions with their eyes wide open, is what is so important in our industry. And by doing so, we police ourselves, we eliminate the bad actors from our business, which hopefully will allow us to continue doing this because it's an awesome business along the way in the investment community. So if you're looking for that quality closing entity, check us out at hornerealestatelaw.com for your next creative finance closing. We can help close your transaction. We can arrange title insurance for you if you wish to have same, whatever it might be. In addition, if you're closing a deal outside of Texas, check us out at theownerfinancenetwork.com at OFN National Escrow Services. This is our new National Escrow Services closing transactions all over the country. In addition to not just acting as your escrow agent, we are also able to provide you title insurance in all 50 states when the time is right. If you're looking to take the next step in your real estate investment business, and that step is into the world of creative finance, check us out at theownerfinancenetwork.com, where we have many free videos for you, free videos for Ask the Attorney, subject matter experts, other videos, all related to the creative finance business, both acquiring homes creatively, selling them creatively, and everything in between. We have several paid courses you can look at as well, and we hope you find those instrumental in your real estate investment business. And if you like this video, take a moment and like us and comment below on any videos you'd like us to make a comment on for you. And we'll see you guys later.